serve.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Things First on a lovely Tuesday morning, wherever you are. I'm sure it's lovely. Jenna Wolf, Nick Wright, Kevin Wilds, Brian Westbrook is with us. We got a lot going on this morning. Cowboys are adding an interesting little wrinkle to their offense this season. The latest NFL insider to say Cam Newton is not a lock to start for the Patriots week 1. And we're giving out NBA awards this morning. Well, Nick gives, we receive. All ahead on First Things First. But we got to start this morning with the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, who appear to be convinced they'll be doing a lot of defending for years to come. Chiefs locking up Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones for the long haul this offseason, prompting both to throw around the word that for 20 years has been reserved only for the Patriots. And that word, my friends, is dynasty. Apparently, it's got a nice ring to it, according to some Chiefs players. Tyreek Hill chiming in with this: I'm proud of just the Chiefs in general for getting all these deals done, man, because they understand right now is our time. Like, this is our window to be great for us to build. Here's that word again, dynasty. Chris Jones followed up with, quote, this is only the beginning. Be prepared to have another parade and another parade and another parade. I've already lost count. We're going to make sure we bring not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4 guys, but 5+ rings to Kansas City. It's been 50 years of waiting, but the wait is over now. It's time to create, here it is again, a dynasty.
Oh, goodness.
Nick, I got to ask you, you're a resident Chiefs fan. You worried at all about all this dynasty talk? I mean, this group of guys, they've only won 1 so far.
No, I'm not worried about it. I'm encouraged by it. And listen, the table is obviously set perfectly for the Chiefs. And Jenna, you're right. They've only won 1. Mahomes has only been the starter for 2 years. The first year he was the starter. If the Patriots call heads instead of tails and the coin toss in the AFC Championship game overtime, then the Chiefs have 2 Super Bowls. But the Patriots called the coin toss right, so they only have 1 Super Bowl. But I think the reason people are hesitant to talk dynasty is because people think they are rare in the NFL. They're not. Every decade the NFL has existed, we have had a dynasty. In the 60s, it was the Green Bay Packers. They won 3 of them. In the 70s, it was the Pittsburgh Steelers. They won 4 in 6 years. In the 80s, it was the San Francisco 49ers. They won 4 Super Bowls. In the 90s, it was the Dallas Cowboys. In the 2000s, it was the Patriots. And in the 2010s, it was the Patriots. And in the midst of that, we've had some teams, if you would call them maybe mini dynasties. The Broncos went back-to-back. The Bills obviously went to 4 consecutive Super Bowls. Brian Westbrook's Eagles went to 4 consecutive conference championship games. Now, those weren't dynasties, but if you have a great team, periods of sustained success happen in the NFL, and every decade, NFL history has a dynasty. So how do you set it up? Well, first thing you do is you make sure your young core is totally intact. Check. The Chiefs have done that, as you can see. Next thing you do, you make sure you are set at the 2 most important positions in the sport, quarterback and coach. And the next thing you do is you win the games you're supposed to win. Patrick Mahomes in his career, 19-1 against teams below 500. And if you can dominate your division, all the better. The Chiefs, even predating Mahomes, Brian, over the last 6 years, they're 27-3 against the woebegone AFC West. So if you could have every single piece in place for a dynasty, the Chiefs do. Jenna's right. They have only won 1, but they've only been together for 2 years. So yeah, Brian, I'm not concerned about this at all. I think it is exactly what they should be focused on.
You know, and I'm not concerned either. And I think you're right. They have all the pieces to build a dynasty, which they've already kind of have built the team to make that dynasty and sustain it. And, you know, I know that there's a lot of talk about dynasty, and I don't have a problem with players talking about dynasty or winning. To me, it's not the talk around dynasty or winning that makes you not be able to accomplish that. It's your lack of preparation. And then when you go out there, you overlook opponents. That's why you can't achieve the dynasties. And so for me, when you have the best player in football, Patrick Mahomes, you have a great coach in Andy Reid, you always will have an opportunity for an extended period of winning, which obviously a dynasty is. I think the Chiefs also have another advantage that some other teams that won the Super Bowl just don't have. And I understand what happens after you win the Super Bowl. You go on your talk shows, you do a lot of appearances, all those different things amidst time where you're partying and enjoying yourself with your friends and things like that. Unfortunately, because of the coronavirus, the Chiefs, they enjoyed themselves as far as in February. But then when March hit and then after that April, they were at home quarantining like everyone else. And so that made the process of slowing down the all-season activities happen a little bit quicker for the Chiefs. I think that's to their advantage. Now they're starting to think about football. The other part is teams that are usually winners like the Chiefs were last year. Other teams are in their building, in their facility, trying to figure out ways to beat them. And again, because of the coronavirus, those teams weren't able to be in their facilities trying to figure out ways. So there's no advantage for the other teams because they're at the same disadvantage as the Chiefs, just getting into their facilities in the next week or so. And so to me, all things are lining up for the Chiefs to have that dynasty. And the talk, to me, Kevin, means absolutely nothing. You have to go out there and prepare yourself and then not overlook opponents. And if you can do that when you have the best player in the NFL, I think you can win a lot of games.
Brian, do you believe in the term that Nick just invented that is in no dictionary? I don't even know if it has a Wikipedia page, or if you Google it, you may get 0 hits. Mini dynasty. Do you agree with that? That term should be in existence.
I like the term only because around that phrase, he mentioned the Eagles that went to a bunch of NFC Championship games, of course, a Super Bowl appearance. I kind of appreciated that, but I'm not sure that there's a such thing as a mini dynasty. Either you have a dynasty or you don't.
That's exactly what I'm saying. He gave the Bills a mini dynasty, and I'm like, I think he's trying to butter Brian up, trying to say mini dynasty. Look, Jenna, we talked a lot about Super Bowl hangover. This is the Super Bowl still a little bit drunk from the parade. I'm all for the Chiefs. I like the Chiefs, Nick, and I hate to be on the other side of this, but you guys have gone way too bonkers with this. You won 1 Super Bowl in 50 years. Bill Belichick still has the dynasty. Oh, we're going to take a little walk down memory lane. The dynasty is just starting. It's just starting. You got 1 Super Bowl, just starting. Then you move on. We got Mahomes that we're chasing a dynasty. So Mahomes doesn't necessarily think you're starting it. He's sort of still going after it. Then you got the Chiefs team. The team itself saying, let's go build. They're building, and Mahomes looks like he's in the Game of Thrones. And then, of course, we have, boom, Chris Jones, let's go. The dynasty continues. We already have a dynasty, and this is just continuing since he got his big contract. Look, Bill Belichick's been to 9 Super Bowls. He won 6 of them. We've got the AFC East 16 of the last 17 years. You have a long way to go to have a dynasty. And I know you're saying, like, no, Wilds, this is the beginning. This is the beginning. You got to speak it into existence. You know what, Nick?
Yeah.
I'm not even mad. Remember when we were talking about Cam Newton and the GMs should sign him because that's what you should do what you want your opponents not to do. Correct? It's a little bit of reverse engineering. Yeah. I would be scared if the Chiefs said, we're not talking about dynasties. We're not talking about next year. We're talking about 1 game at a time, and that's the only thing we're focused on. I say, oh boy, that sounds like a dynasty in the making. But talking about dynasties, not going to happen.
Okay. All right. Real quick, Jenna, Wilds is saying that. Why? Because what team would never talk about dynasties? What team that we always compare everyone to would never say the things the Chiefs are saying? And that's the critique here. What team is that, Jenna?
The New England Patriots.
Right. And so that is exactly correct. And I knew you'd say it with the Patriots newspaper right over your shoulder. Diehard Patriot fan, surrounded by Patriot fans.
Coincidence.
Thank God Brian is here. I want to say something about this whole idea that in order to have a dynasty in the NFL, you have to do things the Patriot way. Because the Patriot way, The first step of the Patriot way is acquire the greatest quarterback ever. By the way, the Chiefs might have done that too. The second step of the Patriot way is pair him with one of, if not the greatest coach ever. Well, Andy Reid's not the greatest coach ever, but he's certainly one of the greatest coaches in the game. Everything from after that is just what the Patriots have done, and so we assign it greatness. Nobody says, listen, if you want to have a dynasty, you need to stay one game at a time, on to Cincinnati, and every 3 or 4 years have a massive cheating scandal. You don't say that, but that's part of the Patriot way. Hell, they just got dinged a few weeks ago. Nobody talks about it. We don't say part of the Patriot way is you make sure you churn players in and out of that you never overpay, and try to have a key contributor in Super Bowl years spend the first 4 games of the season suspended for steroids, a la Rob Ninkovich or Rodney Harrison or Julian Edelman recently. And by the way, Rob Ninkovich, I saw what you said about Patrick Mahomes. That's why I reminded the audience about your steroid suspension. So we can't just take the things with the Patriot way that we say worked and say everyone should do it. It worked for them, and I'm happy it worked for them. The Chiefs, on the other hand, are making sure nobody on this team is going to get fat and happy. Nobody on this team is going to say, we won, now we can rest on our laurels, because they are setting the standard so that one Super Bowl at this point would be a failure. In fact, just winning one more would be a disappointment. As some